It's hard to do a good job when you don't want to do it.
A lot for that. My dad always said, get a job you like and you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
Heard that before too. Or since, I should say.
You ready, Michelle?
You're live.
Yes, I am. Mhm.
Call this meeting in order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Robbins,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton,
Present.
Chairman Bonnick,
Here.
Commissioner Wessel,
Here from Anna Maria Island, Florida.
Commissioner Sotosoto,
Here from Leland Township, Michigan.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Present.
Commissioner Lautner,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. So that brings us to approval of minutes. We have a list here. Commissioner Walker.
I would move to approve minutes of December 15th, 2020, regular session February 16th, 2021, executive board May 9th, 2021, and special session May 9th, 2021.
I'm sorry, I read May, I meant March.
No, did I say May?
Yeah.
No, March. No, you wrote it correct. Once again, the clerk is correct, and I'm mistaken, so it is May, or I mean March. What is it?
We
It's not
wish to see you on
March.
spring to come.
Yeah. Yeah, get spring underway.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or statements? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So that brings us then to approval of the agenda. We do have one late addition for the donation for a K-9. There, maybe we can put that as C under action item number 1. Commissioner Locke?
I just have a question first, Mr. Chairman, is our corporate counsel contract, when does that expire? I know we're not in any big hurry on that.
Well, it
We're-
expires in May, I believe.
So we have next month yet?
Yeah.
I would just like to postpone that, maybe put that on April's agenda if that would be okay.
So we just,
I'd like to remove it if possible for tonight.
can we do it as we can give a level report on it? What he's found out, or as a discussion item? but
Sure,
not-
discussions, certainly.
not
no
moving under
action.
So we put it under discussion.
Okay.
Any other additions or changes? We have a motion to approve as amended.
I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. We now have an agenda. So that will bring us to public comment. Please come forward. And if there's someone out there on the phone, wants to call in on the phone, the number is 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109.
Well, Mr. Janik, would you pass these out to the people, please, commissioners? I'm here In response to my continuing correspondence with my commissioner, Commissioner Soto, District Number 5, my name is, by the way, my name is Gary Zamitis from Leland. Can you hear me clearly?
It might be best if you just take your mask off while you're speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you'll be-
Commissioner Soto, sorry to hear about your husband. Prayers for your husband are being said by our Leelanau Christian Men's Group and myself. Isn't this a wonderful place we live in? To have such a great hospital, Munson, available for our emergency needs? I personally have been there numerous times. Life is an adventure. We are lucky to be born in the greatest country on earth. We live our lives, hopefully, the best we can. And as a human being, then we all die. The vast majority of us believe leading a good life leads to an eternal reward in the afterlife. If we don't have this hope, why try to be a good individual? As usual, Commissioner Soto and I are not on the same page. In my email, which I've given you to her, and on the back is her response. In my email to her on 2/24, I never suggested to eliminate or replace the moment of silence. It seems to me and others, you are trying to spin my letter to say things I didn't say. So your response is completely irrelevant to my question, request, and my sentiments. It put me in a bad light. You, Patricia, didn't address the concerns as stated. That was, our nation's capital says a prayer, our state capital says a prayer, and the majority of counties do the same. The precedent has been set. If you personally do not want to pray or believe in God, just say so. The vast majority of our county believes in God, and most also pray. I don't see what the problem is with my request to add a prayer between the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence. Please don't come back with that separation of church and state statement. The true meaning from our founding fathers is that the state shall not have its own religion. Some people have twisted its true intent to try to remove God from our lives. These same people try to put government in every part of our lives to replace him. I hope my request is clear now. Myself and others will be awaiting your response. Oh, one more thing. Oh God, please help and protect all those who live in Leelanau County, especially those facing health, both mental and physical, and financial difficulties. Also, we pray for our commissioners, give them the wisdom they need as they make difficult decisions. Thank you for this wonderful place we live in. Amen.
Thank you. We have him on the phone here. Okay, sir, go ahead.
All right.
Yes, your turn. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is John Fletcher. I live in Leelanau. We are reminded each day to wear a mask because of COVID-19. The reminder is based on science, medical research, facts, and data from the CDC, health agencies, different levels of government, and our own NC Leelanau District Health Department. The Board of Commissioners approved the Leelanau County COVID-19 plan in May 2020. It requires mask wearing by all in the government buildings. During last week's meeting, the commissioner stated that blue mask and cloth masks were not effective in the fight against the virus based on discussions with the health department physician. We need further documentation regarding this statement. But also your review are linked to information regarding ways to counter the virus, most importantly, wearing masks, which also include wearing blue masks, layer masks, and other masks, all which have varying degrees of effectiveness. Further, the fourth article below explains why the plexiglass barriers are not the most effective way to prevent the virus spread. It is largely droplet compared over and around a plexiglass barrier. Please consider reading this article. Commissioners are willing to wear a mask during public meetings, contrary to the COVID-19 plan, could stay home and zoom into the BOC meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, if there's anyone else who wants to do public comment, it's 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109. Okay, it's your turn. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ellen Fred. I'm in Cedar, Michigan. And I wanted to thank the commissioners for continuing the discussion about the anti-bias trainings and the anti-racist resolution. I'm so encouraged that you're continuing that discussion. I listened to the executive committee meeting last week, and I heard that there is some discussion about continued anti-bias training, which is very encouraging. I want to impress upon the commissioners that the content of such anti-bias training is critical, and I was slightly concerned to hear about the discussions with the sheriff and perhaps utilizing some materials that the sheriff might have used or might have bought over the last weeks. I'm still concerned about the book that he bought called War on Cops, which has been roundly criticized as biased and racist and from a far right, published by a far right organization. So I think it's critical that we use truly anti-bias materials and educators in continuing this training of county officials and employees. But if the correct materials are used, then I think it's a wonderful thing, and I very much encourage it. I also am in strong support of a county-wide policy for all employees regarding racism in the workplace, much like you have already in place for sexual harassment. And I'm very encouraged by the discussion that that policy is being discussed and will be hopefully adopted in the coming weeks and months. So I wanted to commend you for your continuing discussion about these very important issues that are very, very important to all of us in this county so that we can continue to live in a safe and welcoming place. So thank you very much. And if there's anything that my group, Northwest Michigan United for Racial Equity, can do to support these efforts, we're very much available. And it is a group of all Leelanau residents. Thank you again so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. The phone number is 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109 for public comment. Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Sarah Wellman, and I live in Centerville Township. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you today. Today I'm going to ask you to do something that I don't hear very often. Please don't lower my taxes. One of the complaints that Republicans had about the recently passed CARES Act was that it wasn't targeted to the right people. It was scratching where it didn't itch.
And I think your proposal to lower property taxes does the same thing. I'm certainly not suggesting that there aren't property owners in Leelanau County who are suffering financially from the events of the last year. But the amount of money you are providing by lowering the millage will not solve the problem for the young family whose breadwinners have lost their jobs and they are behind on their mortgage. Not to mention the residents who rent and will receive no benefit at all. They need more immediate and direct relief. And I am suggesting that the money you are providing to the property owners is going disproportionately to the largest landowners, who in most cases have not suffered financial hardship. Aren't you doing the exact thing that many of you disliked about the original bill? Many property owners in Leelanau are retired. We live on pensions and Social Security, which have remained constant during the last year, and in many cases our expenses have decreased. Less gas and wear and tear on the car, no entertainment or dining out, and not much spent out of the clothing budget. How many pairs of sweatpants does one person need? No amount of money will make, we have missed seeing friends at meetings and events, and for those of us whose family lives too far to visit, we have missed seeing grandkids grow up. No amount of money will make up for that. And don't forget that a number of large properties in Leelanau are second homes, and you will be giving relief to non-residents. I would much rather see you use this financial windfall to help those who have suffered the most during the last year. Use it to help those who don't have enough food to eat, can't pay their heating costs, are burdened with medical bills because they lost their insurance when they lost their job, and help those property owners who are in danger of losing their homes. These people need your immediate response. Target those in greatest need. Scratch where it itches. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. There's, Eric. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, this is Melissa Kosowski calling from County, Michigan. I'd like to make a public comment that during the organizational meeting, Commissioner Gwen introduced an idea of a land acknowledgement cited at the beginning of the agenda. I would like to share what a land acknowledgement is. A land acknowledgement recognizes the indigenous people and their stewardship to the land. That a relationship exists between the indigenous and the resided territories. Land acknowledgement can take the form as an opening statement during a meeting to hold space, to recognize and support your neighboring tribal nation as a resolution or support of your local federally recognized tribe. And you can also add it to the government website to educate citizens and visitors of the community, post to the governmental chambers to recognize the relationship between our local government and the tribe. Please keep in mind that the tribes support not only the general welfare of their membership, but also the fairly economic interest of the region in which they reside in, promoting 2% payout, employment, insurance, tourism, and etc. A land acknowledgement is a small reflection in the amount of diversity, inclusion, and equity the tribe promotes within the region. And thank you for speaking at public comment tonight.
Thank you. Please call 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109 for public comment. Okay, seeing none, then we would move on to communications, proclamations, and presentations.
And if it's okay, Mr. Graham, just take a few moments and acknowledge the painful passing this week of Bob Bailey, one of our longtime deputies and detectives here. I forwarded the obituary to you today, and he was one of those people that I've never heard him say one bad word about anything under some very unique circumstances. He was just a treasure, and he had this gift of making everyone feel happy. A lot of times he would come over here, drop off paperwork, but he made a point to stop at all the offices, just say hi, and just see how everyone was doing. And I know it's very hard on his family, and the sheriff's here. I'll share with you, like, say a few words. I know I put you in a spot here, but I think it's, that we should acknowledge Bob. And I know it's been a hard week for you and your staff.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. It's quite a team over
If
there.
you come up here so people,
Make things, yep. It's been quite a week for all of us, you included. We don't make those choices, God does, and he needed Bob back, so that's it. It was nothing out of negligence on his part. There was no violent act that occurred. It was a medical incident, and we just don't know when our time's up. So let's all grow from it. Let's learn from it. Let's learn to appreciate each other for every moment we have with each other. Bob's funeral will be Wednesday, the 24th. I'm not sure how many people are going to be there because obviously there's concerns about COVID-19. There's concerns about gathering sizes. We're working with Westside Community Church on that. There'll be more information out later. Bob was a Native American, Grand Traverse Band member, and I'm very happy to say multiple cultural traditions were carried out this week, including a 4-day fire, of which the Northern Lights were out the whole time. Actually, 3 of the 4 days I saw them. A fire that many of us attended, and it's part of their spiritual growth and ascension into heaven. There was also several other things that went on. So I'm very happy to say that Bob and his family practiced a lot of long-term tribal traditions, and I think that's important to have and say and keep. So that said, Bob was a wonderful employee. He was a go-to guy, as Chet said, just friendly and happy, and I have more funny pictures of him and things that he was involved with. He was real serious and did a good job as a detective, but there were times when he was just a cut-up, and some of the stories came out when we had a stress debriefing last night, Munson Hospital provided, and it was kind of nice. Everybody yuck and laugh. Well, he did that to me too, or he did that to you. And we got a lot of pictures we dug up that were both from department training, department functions, as well as personal things. So Bob will be sorely missed at 47. He should still be here, but we go on. And for his family, I wish nothing but the best and the stress. And for the community, it's a huge loss for all of us, including us at the sheriff's office individually. So thanks for the time. I appreciate that. And I don't mind being on the spot because it's from the heart. I don't need a script. Neither did you. With what you said was totally true, Chet. He was the kind of guy that everybody liked and kind of guy that made sure that, he did his job well. So I thank you for that and for the moment. And for those of you watching from afar, I appreciate everybody's blessings, and we'll go on from here. Stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I would like to extend our condolences to his wife, his children, his family, to the tribe for their loss, and to his sheriff department family. He will be missed, and hopefully we will be able to attend on the 24th.
Never, thank you.
Thank you for that, and may you all have peace, and his family have peace. This is difficult.
Thank you. Okay, so you come forward then, we'll go to the Board of Public Works. We have Mr. Green here.
Hello, thanks for having me here tonight. This is what is the annual report from the Board of Public Works. I'm a new chairman there, and as I understand it, there was an annual report last year, so.
If you can move that.
As I understand it, there wasn't a report last year, but this is for the calendar year 2019. And can
I
we?
have shared screen, so you just have to share your screen.
Are you logged into the meeting?
I'm gonna put you in the waiting room and I'm gonna admit you again.
Okay.
Share a button that says share screen.
It looks like your video's not on.
Okay, I'm not sure why that is. Oh.
Laurel, do you have a copy of the
Oh, here we
presentation?
go.
That is, there it is.
Okay. This is for the calendar year 2019. Just a general overview. There was really no new major activities in 2019 for the Northport Leelanau Township. Uh-oh. Is there a outlet?
Yeah, just in front of you.
Here, I can. Thank you, Ms. Laurel.
Well, I'm going to use my full 10 minutes here, just trying to get the computer running. But hopefully it won't take too long to boot back up.
Laurel, do you have a copy of the presentation?
It's uploaded to the web. I don't have it printed out.
You don't, okay. Oh, maybe you could share it on the screen.
She sent it to us yesterday. Oh, you didn't send it to chat? We received it yesterday. From Laurel? Oh, yeah, Chet, you got it too yesterday.
Yeah,
Um,
but I'm not logged on, so I can't share
oh,
the
you're not
screen.
logged on. Oh, sure.
There,
There we
there.
go.
Okay. Is that me or is
That's me.
that's you? Okay.
Are you on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the save. I'm a big hockey fan, so saves are good. Okay, so this is for the calendar year 2019. If we can go to the next slide, please. There was no new major activity done in 2019. This summary is comprised from three primary sources. One is Jacobs, who is the operator of the system. And then the township provided some financial information, as did the village of Northport. Next slide, please. Just a overview of the system. It has a capacity, it's a collection and treatment system for primarily the village and some adjacent township areas. It's got a permitted capacity of 130,000 gallons per day. There's approximately 80% of the use is by the village, the other 20% from township areas. About 600 users on the system altogether, and the basis for their fees are based on what's called REUs, or residential equivalent units, which is a typical household. If you have a business that generates twice what a typical household would be, it would have 2 REUs, a household would have 1. So go to the next slide, please.
So, Gar, could we back up just a little bit? So when it comes to the Northport sewer system, the Board of Public Works has some authority over it, or just attends the NLTUA meetings, or what is the capacity?
Well, I believe because the system was originally backed by the county has
The bonds.
the bonds. The DPW, the county's DPW then stays involved in terms of annual reports. We're supposed to meet 4 times a year. We do have our next meeting scheduled for April 6th. But that's the involvement of the
Right.
Board of Public Works.
Yep, thank you. I just wanted to clarify exactly what we're talking about now.
Okay. The township, on their debt service payment, the fees they've been charging in the past couple of years have not provided sufficient revenue to pay their debt service, so they've been putting in funds out of the general fund. Though in 2019, they had, and that amount was about $60,000 for 2 years. In 19, they did have 3 new connections. Connection fees are $18,670. So that reduced the amount that they had to take out of their general fund to about a little less than $10,000. Some of the major system maintenance and improvements, they put new pumps in the Northport Point lift station. They did some grinder pumps are the pumps that service the individual homes. They were having some issues with, they just had a light alarm. They've made some improvements to the alarm now, so it's easier to determine if there's a failure in the grinder pumps. They purchased a new bypass pump, and the reason they did that is they had to rebuild lift station pump in lift station number 2, and in order to rebuild a lift station, you have to bypass pumps. So because the system has to stay operational, so they did purchase a bypass pump, which is a significant reliability enhancement to the system. Okay, next slide. And then in terms of the system performance, like I said, their permitted capacity is 130,000 gallons per day. Now, they're getting quite close to that. In fact, they had a few days where they exceeded that 130,000 gallons a day. So they started doing some investigation as to why that was so. And it turns out they were able to locate approximately 5 homes that either had edge drains or sump pumps connected to the sanitary sewer system, and doesn't meet the requirements that they have adopted. And they figured that was adding about 20,000 gallons per day, which is pretty significant flows from that type of improper discharge.
I'm sorry, edge drains, so meaning off of the eaves of their homes?
Yes, it'd be like downspouts or footing drains around the house, or sump pumps in the basement. Those are not supposed to discharge into the sanitary sewer system. Those are supposed to discharge outside, to a storm sewer or to a dry well or some other way other than the sanitary sewer system, because that is not sanitary sewage.
Yeah, and that's a large amount of gallons for the system only this size.
It's a large percentage. So they're working or in the process of getting those disconnected. I don't know if they have them all yet, but that should move them back down so their peak flows are still under the 130,000 gallons per day permitted discharge. The rest of the system performance is really good. Their BOD, biochemical oxygen demand, which is how much organic material there is in the discharge. They're allowed 30 milligrams per liter. They're down, depending on the time of year, it varies from 2 to 8. So they're substantially below their permitted BOD discharge, and their phosphorus, average monthly phosphorus is 0.3 milligrams per liter, and they're substantially below that at 0.1 to 0.2. So the system treatment is performing pretty well.
When you talk about discharge, is this the water that's put back into Lake Michigan?
Yes.
Okay, so this is after the sewage system is treated, and they're putting that water back into Lake Michigan?
They discharge it. Ultimately, it goes to Lake Michigan. They've got limitations on the effluent, what's allowed to be discharged, and the performance of the system is good, and they're meeting those requirements. And that is it.
Any questions? Commissioner Rush.
Have you had any history of failures up there where you've had discharge directly into Lake Michigan without it being treated?
I'm not aware of any. I am a new chair on the board, so I wasn't serving during 2019, but I didn't see any documentation of that.
And the other question is this information is over a year old. So I was just wondering when we would get a more recent update, 2020.
We will get that as soon as Jacobs, who compiles the data, submits the report. We'll go ahead and we'll bring that to the board. Hopefully it'll be much quicker than 2019.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then that would then bring us to our action items. Number 1, the mutual aid agreement with the National Park Service.
I would move to allow the chairman of the board and director of emergency management 911 to sign the general agreement with Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore to continue professional services being performed between Leelanau County Dispatch Center and the National Park Service. Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. And that brings us to the dispatch. Is that the dispatch services? Commissioner Rush.
I would move to approve the general agreement between the United States Department of Interior and National Park Service and the Leelanau County Sheriff's Office regarding emergency law enforcement assistance, pending review of the corporate council, and allow the board chair to sign a contract upon approval.
I believe it has. I'm 99% sure it has.
Right, Sheriff?
I believe it was reviewed by the council.
Correct, it was.
Yeah.
This is a 5-year contract. They do it every 5 years, and it's been approved just recently.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the donation. Commissioner Wagner.
I would move that the Board of Commissioners accept a donation of $5,000 and place it in the K-9 donation fund 101-000-000-674-005.
Second.
Gladly second. Is that correct? I thought I heard mumbling over there like.
That's the correct number.
Okay, and then their support. So per our policy then, a thank you notice sent, even though the donation was anonymous, we're able to send a thank you note to them.
Yes.
And Obviously, because we put it in the canine fund that's going for a new canine.
Yes, the current dog we just got, which you're gonna meet as soon as he gets out of training, the new canine handler, Ryan Lott, and the dog are away at training now. So we'll have an introduction here. That dog was paid for by donations from the community, and we didn't seek those donations. This is who we live with around here. These people came to us, their family, and they wanted to pay for our next dog, which is the one you see right now named Klaus. And this donation, this latest $5,000, will go into that fund, and that we are putting that toward our next dog after this dog is done. So we're building and establishing this fund, so we always have a canine. And this dog, we have trained these dogs continuously to look for Alzheimer's patients, young kids, people with autism, criminals who break into buildings, houses, or banks, and plus they're handler protective. So in case of a very, very bad situation, if we had something bad going on in a house with weapons of any type or explosives, we can send the dog in rather than a deputy. We do consider them and classify them as a deputy, but for lack of better words, we send them rather than a human being, and they've been fantastic. So for all those people who have donated that fund, I just would like to take a moment and say thank you for thinking and caring about that. And we're just blessed to live in an area like this where people can see the value of this sort of a canine program, and it's just been very beneficial. So thank you for the support as well.
Is the dog trained to sniff out drugs?
Yes. And the type drugs the dog's trained on are going to be your opioids. It's going to be fentanyl. It's going to be, cocaine, methamphetamine, which meth has basically taken over what was heroin. And with all the fentanyl now being found in drugs, and fentanyl is not just in heroin. It's used an extender and to make it more potent, but fentanyl is starting to work its way into other things. So luckily, these dogs are trained to pick up on that. And we actually are training in our new training center, which you guys had to see a couple weeks ago. We are training using naloxone on both human and dogs. We see somebody unconscious. There's no apparent, injury, blunt trauma, force, any reason to believe they shouldn't be unconscious. It's maybe a cardiac event or a stroke or something. We don't know, but naloxone will wake up people if they're in that drug zone and they're close, and we will inject it. And about the worst thing that happens is when they wake up, they're combative because they don't know where they are, why they're there. They don't know why they passed out, but all of a sudden they see someone, a medic or a fireman or a police officer standing above them. And that's about the worst thing that happens. Occasionally punches are thrown, whatever. But other than that, we're actually training into it. And canines are actually in jeopardy for that as well. So.
This one from a German Shepherd again?
It's another German Shepherd, purebred. And I might add, born in Poland, trained in Poland.
Born in Poland.
So I called Chet. Yeah. So that dog, they train the world's best dogs, and that dog.
Get rid of them once you get them.
Yeah. That dog came with papers, and of course I couldn't read it. And so I called Chet and I said, his passport, his travel papers, all his papers are in Polish. Can you help me? So Chet's going to help me decipher that. But basically that dog had to go through the same thing, COVID procedures, travel procedures, passports and everything. So we're going to look at that hopefully next week. And once the issue we're dealing with will be over, then we'll get into that and have more of a lighter moment.
Well, we look forward to meeting him.
What was his name again?
Klaus, Klouse. So he's very touchy. He's very much on Ryan's leg all the time, right next to him, looking up at him, see what he wants him to do. He's very well trained. As the people that prepare them and sell them to us from this Mike Morgan from Morgan Kennels downstate said this dog is miles ahead of the other candidate we had. He's just very attentive and very good at what he does. So I've seen a little of his work, but I've not seen the whole array yet.
His first name Santa.
Yeah, right. It could be that. Yeah.
I have to recommend Stanislav. But
Yeah.
Sure, good.
Stanislav, yeah.
Go with my recommendation.
Yeah. So the dog was actually named by our handler's wife, who is Deutsch German, and she wanted to name it that. His original birth name is kind of hard to pronounce. It's Uren, but it's like Uren, like that. And it would be a little difficult for a handler sometimes to, communicate that way and whatever. The dog does respond in foreign language. And by that, I mean, he takes commands in foreign language. He doesn't communicate back. I did say that to one individual who said to me, I know people who can't speak Polish or German. And I'm just like looking for that Ellen Funt camera everywhere. This can't be real. She didn't really just say that, did she? But anyway, she was amazed the dog could speak foreign language, but this dog does take commands in both English and foreign language. So it gives the handler an opportunity, but what a blessing. I mean, and this is something interesting. We send the deputies to training with, mentally impaired people, understanding Alzheimer's and dementia, the differences, what you're liable to see. And one of the things we sent them training, specialized training, was for autism. And people who have autism, oftentimes, especially children, are attracted to water. So when someone who's autistic is missing or something's gone, one of the first things we do is establish basically a ring. How fast can a human run an hour? Where could they be? And where's the water? So we go to pools and backyards. We go to creeks, ditches, lakes. For some reason, there's a fascination with water because there's potential for drowning. So these dogs are amazing when they can take a couple sniffs of clothes and they just take off and find people. Until you've actually seen it, and some of you saw the training we're doing a couple weeks ago, and how we're doing, our use of force training and our de-escalation, all that. Until you've seen these dogs operate, it's easy to hide drugs somewhere and have the dog go find it in a room. But until you see them on a windy day or rainy day or snowy day, go out and literally find a human being just by scent, it's pretty amazing. So anyway, thank you for the support and for the public as well.
Please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. I think the motion passes 7-0. Okay.
Welcome to clubs.
Welcome to Klaus.
So, then that would bring us then to Marine Patrol. Commissioner Rushing.
I would move to approve the sheriff's office hiring 2 marine safety deputy seasonal positions.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you so much. And last time I spoke with you, I talked to you about some stresses I was dealing with trying to keep our new Marine commander here because he didn't have a place to live. And 2 of you commissioners, Commissioner Robinson and Commissioner Rushton, stepped up and found housing for us. And that was just, I just really appreciate that because it's very, very hard to find temporary housing. So thank everybody for your support. Thank you too for that. It's pretty amazing. We are hiring Madison Trumbull, who is a Leland student grad, and she's a senior at Elmhurst College in Illinois, studying law enforcement, a great athlete, great family, great attitude. She's doing an internship with us now. She did some ride-alongs, been very effective, as well as we're hiring Peter Olson. And Peter is, again, in law enforcement, studying college. He's a sophomore, and he will be joining us, and he's just very good structured family, same as Madison, good people, should do really well for us. So we're excited. We're sending both of them to a Marine school Michigan Sheriff Association puts on down in Ottawa County. They'll get a week of training, then they'll come back, and former Commander Paul Rabori will spend about a week with them, training them, getting up to speed on boats and everything. In the meantime, summer's fast approaching, and by about May 15th, we'll be fully operational. We're actually starting 2 of them on April 15th. And the other 2, sometime around May 15th, they get out of school. So start covering our lakes and rivers and streams and making calls. So thank you very much for support, and appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that would then bring us up to potential removal of 911 surcharge.
Should treat the dog or treat a dog for virus and
Commissioner Walker.
I would move that Leelanau County Board of Commissioners stay status quo for the annual ANC-500 collection and remittance report, and to have the 911 director and county clerk complete the required forms and submit them as required.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 6-1. Yes. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, 6-1?
did you vote against it, right?
No.
No, I'm sorry, it passes 7-0.
Okay.
I'm sorry, she wanted to, okay, go ahead.
I thought we were finished with that.
All right, I'm still on the, raise your hand for no when you raise.
Oh, sorry.
So it passed 7-0. Thank you. Now, Commissioner Rushing.
I would move to approve the request for the Director of Emergency Management, 911, to fill the vacant dispatcher position. as requested.
Commissioner Alguier.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So then that will bring us to the Park and Rec, or no, I'm sorry, the planning for the scrap tire grant. Commissioner Lochner.
I would move to approve a 2021 scrap tire recycling grant application and be submitted on behalf of Leelanau County by the due date of April 2nd, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So then that brings us to the Park and Rec recommendation for a contract with Save and Lake Services. Commissioner Alguier.
I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive its policy on bid requirements and approve an agreement with Save and Lake Services for weed eradication at Veronica Valley Park at a cost not to exceed $2,475. Funds to come from 101-850-756-801-000, pending council review and approvals.
Support.
Did you want to make a statement?
No. Well, yes. I am going to support this. I know it's a lot. We do spend a lot of money on those, on the kids' fish day. So I guess until we decide we're not going to do Kids Fish Day anymore, we're going to have to keep the ponds clean. But I just want to, it is a large expense for that event to keep those ponds healthy.
Commissioner Rush.
I was just wondering, last week we had some discussion on utilizing a different type of method to keep those ponds clean. And I'm just wondering if Parks and Recs has taken that recommendation into consideration, or maybe they haven't had a chance to do that yet.
We meet tomorrow.
Okay, so I would ask commissioners who are on that board to take a look at that. I think maybe that could save us some money and would be better for the environment as well.
Commissioner Alguier.
I too hate the idea of putting chemicals in it. It does cost a lot of money. So I look forward to further exploration. The flip side is once you let the pond go, it's very, very difficult to bring it back. So I support this while we look to see if it is the best way down the road.
Laura.
I just wanted to comment that what happened last year was this was the only firm that they could get to provide a proposal for the service. So that's probably why they went back to them. And this is all done under kind of an overlook by Heather Hettinger. She's the DNR fisheries biologist, and she oversees what's going on with the application process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or anything? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 7-0. So then that would bring us to senior services and the contract with Leelanau Christian Neighbors. Commissioner Alguier.
I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners move forward to approve a contract with Leelanau County Senior Services and Leelanau Christian Neighbors for the distribution of Grand Traverse Band 2% allocation funds totaling $20,600 to support seniors with food pantry services and financial assistance through its Neighborhood Assistance Ministry Program beginning March 16, 2021, pending council review and approval.
Support.
Any Commissioner Rush.
I believe last week, Melinda, you were the one that requested from April some numbers in regards to this. And I did see where April had sent correspondence today to the board. However, I didn't see the numbers, all I saw was an application. So I was just wondering if in fact we can get those numbers from April. She may have made a mistake when she sent because the application does not tell us the services that were provided from the last 2%.
I believe the last 2% were not through April's office, so I believe they were through the courts. That's probably, I'm just guessing, maybe that's where.
The last one was in 2018. That's what they were asking.
Oh, well, okay.
Right.
Because since then, I think there was one through the prosecutor's office and through the courts. But you want from 2018.
She had asked for the numbers of citizens that were served, and either way. I mean,
Okay, let me see if I can get all those numbers here.
Thank you, Deborah. And also though, we shouldn't have to ask for these every year because unless I'm mistaken, I thought we had that written right into the contract. So we should be getting those every year through Leelanau Christian Neighbors, I believe. If not, we need to work on that contract again, but I think that's how it's written, so.
Commissioner Alvarez.
I'd like to just note that Monday, I tried to make a donation at LCN, and I couldn't because the Senior Services Department was distributing meals to seniors, standing out in the cold with smiles on their faces, long line of cars. So people were going into the food pantry, and anyone over 60 was also given meals, which is a wonderful service. And I'm proud of that department and what they're doing.
Right, that's good to hear, because my concern is before, when they've given these donations through the senior services to LCN, they haven't had the capacity to decide who's getting it and who isn't. And that's why they stopped for a while, because they couldn't verify that it was only going to people over 60. And that's still my concern. That's why I voted no with it, because we're picking charities to give money to, and I don't think that government should be picking charities. Now, but if the senior services, and if they're actually verifying and it's going to people over 60 and they're giving out, that then it's a little different. They're using it as a storage facility. So that's, so then I feel like I can vote for it in this instance, but most of the time, I just see them as donations, and we're not getting the reports, and we're not getting the things, and I have a problem with just as in the, in the public comment, they want us to pick and choose who the county should give to. That really isn't the place of the county to do that with charities. We need to give it to all the people, and that's even the problem with the stimulus that's coming out now. They give it to everybody, and as the person stated, there are people who don't need it, and probably most of the people who get it don't need it. But the government is not supposed to pick and choose. I'm really happy to hear, because I was not going to vote for this. So I'm happy to hear that you're seeing them, and it's going to 60 and over, and they're verifying that. And I hope that report will show us that. Any other questions or statements? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. Commissioner Rushing.
I would move to allow Leelanau County Senior Services to accept a contribution from the Area Agency on Aging of Northwest Michigan for providing seniors with MIPA beneficiary outreach assistance totaling $680 and placement to Leelanau Senior Services contributions from other agencies, account 281 several zeros 677.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So that brings us to the septic record.
Yeah, thank you. I was hoping to have a meeting with Rob Herman and Eric Johnson last week, but due to the unfortunate situation and some other issues, that did not occur, but I didn't have a chance to talk to Rob, who talked to Eric. And what they would like to do is kind of continue with Rob did for Little Traverse Lake, but expanded to the next lake there. For him to do it all, well, for him to do the whole county, he could do it. It's getting the records from the health department. It would be a major effort. And so what Rob suggested, and based on his discussion with Eric, I've not talked to Eric personally, so just want to paraphrase that. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but what Rob suggested, and basically what Eric would like to do, is do the exact same thing with the Little Traverse Lake. Pick a different lake, maybe Lake Leelanau, some bigger lake, and do what he did in terms of the age of the septic systems, the wells, and the camps that he did. And Rob said for him, it's not a major effort. The effort really is on the health department. But Rob said he'd be more than willing to do that, and it would not be a huge diversion from his normal duties and duties to do that. So I think I'll still try to set up a meeting with Mr. Johnson, Rob and I, and continue and do the next lake. As Eric said, the information from Little Traverse was very, very helpful.
Commissioner Watt.
I don't have enough, I really like the idea of doing a second lake. I just don't know if Lake Leelanau maybe is the next.
Yeah, I
best
don't
lake.
know. We're gonna ask Mr. Johnson to pick a lake. We just said.
Yeah, should we pick a lake, I guess, is more.
Well, you could if you want.
If we would like our employee to do the work, and I'm trying to think of, I don't know, perhaps the best lake or the lake where, they would do the most benefit.
Well,
That's what-
Mr. Johnson picked Little Traverse Lake,
Yeah,
and Rob and I suggested that we let him pick the lake.
okay, well, I can come back with that suggestion to us, and I'd like to.
I guess the question is, if you want to proceed, he can start working on this and maybe have the next lake done by the next board.
Oh, we would do it that soon.
If, from his perspective, it's not the work, it's
Okay,
from the health department getting the records to Rob.
okay.
Actually, I'm not a GIS person, but for Rob to do what he did, he said it's not time consuming.
Commissioner Allen.
I concur that Eric should probably pick the lake because he is so involved in this, and this is really his study. So I support that idea of letting him pick a lake. There are certain lakes that are doing testing for bacteria this summer as well, and he's aware of all of that. And talks to people doing the testing in the lake associations. So I'm very excited that they're going to continue this. It's excellent, excellent information for our citizens.
Yeah, I'm all for it. The only thing I think what we've learned from the last one is before we pick a lake, check with the lake association so they don't worry about it in the enterprise and see what they're doing and see if they want, they want to come on board.
I agree with that too, yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Just to clarify that issue, it was a misunderstanding because they did know. They thought when they read the enterprise that it was a completely different project. So they did know it was a misunderstanding. And they had been part of the process the whole time, their water quality person had, and had reviewed it with them. So we've cleared that up. I had a conference call with the association.
Commissioner Watt.
We have some very valuable information now too, in the hands of our health department. So I also would like to know from Eric what, does he have an idea of what we might do with that information? So with that information, if we have, we know now where we don't have a record, say, of a septic system on that lake, I just would like to have him somehow contact that homeowner. And first step would be just make them aware that there is no system of record and clear up perhaps any confusion. If for some reason something was put in and somehow our health department doesn't know about it. I don't know how that would happen without permitting, but make those homeowners on that lake aware that there is no system and ask them to come up to compliance.
Let me do this. I'll have a discussion with Mr. Johnson. I'll see which lake picks. I assume all of you are going forward. And I'll invite Mr. Johnson to come to our April meeting. And he can answer those type of questions. I'm sure he'll be glad to come. He's been very willing to participate in discussions. But he did say the work that Rob has done has been very valuable.
Good.
Thank you very much. So then we move on to the virus resolution. You know, and I introduced this because I do appreciate what I think was Mrs. Wellman talked about, and I understand that she has a valid point in that it does, the people with the expensive homes who don't do benefit too, but to me, it's really more about the businesses that have been shut down. They're gonna be asked for their full tax, you know, and if the county can help them out, I think we should. The renters, you know, hopefully that this would help the people who own it, who maybe haven't been paid their rent, you know, so that they are able to keep renters going. So I just think that we don't really want to go out there and pick and choose who the county should help and who we shouldn't help. I think that's a fallacy if we do that, and that's a mistake. So I'm hoping that we can do this, and then we can look at the different things that the county does that cost people money, cost them under property, and we can help them all.
This kind of ties into my update at the end of the agenda about the federal funding, but maybe now would be time to talk about it, because it does tie into what you're saying.
Sure.
So if it's okay, we'll just.
That would be good. No,
Yeah, because it really does tie in. So as you know, last week, another federal package was passed, signed into law. The difference between this one and the previous ones, for example, the one that we received, the community development block grant, that money was for Leelanau County, but all units of government were eligible to apply through us. By the way, we just got our last payment for that. And if you get calls from townships or fire departments for the reimbursements, they'll be getting an email from me this week telling me, and I'll tell them how much amount they got, and we'll be transferring that money fairly soon. So we have that money now, and that covered the cost of their expenses related to COVID. So that part's done. This money, and that was funded through the state of Michigan. This money from federal government is coming directly to each of the counties. As we mentioned last week, it's $4.2 million. I was hoping to have more details. Unfortunately, at this point, there are no specific guidelines. I was on numerous conference calls last week. I think you received the MAC update that had some general information. So let me just go over some of that, because what you're talking about, Mr. Buddick, may be an option that the county board wishes to consider. So the money is $4.2 million. We're not competing with other counties or other units of government for that money. This is money that's allocated for Leelanau County. Portion of that is maybe as much as half of it will be transferred into the county in the next month or two. So it'll be coming quickly. The second half will come at least a year later. All the funds have to be spent by December 31st, 2024. So there's time there. What most counties are going to do, and what I reckon we do, is take our time. Don't rush into this. Because the concern is, if we spend the money, we have to then submit a report on how the money was allocated. And for some reason that is not approved, we have to pay money back. So it's a little different than the first grant that we got, where I actually could call the liaison officer and look sample for mass equipment that he wanted. We were able to get an answer before we made the purchase decision. For some of the townships, we bought polycoms, we asked first before they purchase it. This will not work that way. We will get a lump transfer up to half of the amount in the next month or two. And then we have through the end of 2024. At some point, we will be assigned a liaison officer to help clarify the issues. The guidelines are fairly generic at this point. There's two things we cannot do with the money. One is use it for any pension reduction that cannot be used, nor can be done to lower the current tax rate. However, if we or any government was short on taxes because of COVID, you can backfill with it, but you can't cut taxes to go forward. But it also can be used for infrastructure. I'm thinking I'm gonna research if we could use it to finish this building, the HVAC project. I think it can be, by your general guidelines, because I asked that question, and they obviously said, well, wait for more details, but repairs, infrastructure repairs are allowable. Septic, sewer, water projects are acceptable. The big, also that a lot of counties are interested, especially rural counties, are broadband expansion and internet. How that plays out, we don't have the details yet. Also, it can be allocated to help with businesses and families and individuals that have suffered financial losses. Now, how does that play out with businesses? There's no guidelines here for individuals. But when you were talking about trying to help people that suffer, there may be a method in place that we can allocate funds. We may be able to create a pot of money that businesses can apply for. And we could set the criteria. We could have a pot of money available. Now, this is alternative, but we could set aside X dollars for unmet needs, where people would apply through us for utilities, for whatever their expenses are, medical bills, dental, for example, heat, that could be potentially part of it. But there are no guidelines yet on that. So I think the prudent thing to do is what I think most counties are doing, get the money set aside in a special account, don't touch it until we have a liaison officer, until we get more guidance from the federal level on what is the process, what type of reports are required. But the difference is we get the money up front. The concern is if it's not approved, then you have to pay money back. And that's the concern.
Commissioner West.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that update, Chet. My understanding is that nonprofits who address some of the problems that Chairman Bunnick mentioned in his resolution, the domestic abuse, the loss of jobs, some of those nonprofits would be able to work with us to get reimbursement for some of those needs. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. Yes. For example, just with the SNAP Community Development Block Grant, the Meals and Wheels program, and Leelanau Christian Neighbors, and LIFT, the 1% Bay Lifting Teen they were giving away meals. I asked for the receipts, all that money was reimbursed to them. So I think at some point, once we have more details, we probably should have either a special meeting or set time aside to really talk about how we can allocate this money. The other one question is, not that we make a lot of interest off it, can we use the interest? And that was a question that there was no answer for. Because previous allocations, and if you do bonds or village projects, you cannot save the interest. You have to put it for a specific cause. Question is, can we use the interest for the general budget? And they didn't know. So a lot of questions up in the air.
I thought you could use the interest for bonuses.
In all seriousness, personnel costs can be included, and I don't know about details, but there's a lot of concerns about that, especially when it comes to contract negotiations, which we have outcome.
Commissioner Rush.
What about reducing our bond?
No, because that was incurred prior to this. No, it has to be, it can be for past debts.
Okay.
I did check on that too, I thought that too. However, for example, if we were to, let's just, when you figure how much money we spent on the roof next door and this building so far, if we don't have to spend that money and finish this project without using money, that helps our general fund budget, which then we can allocate for retirement, for bond payments and so forth. For example, if we would have waited, not that we wanted to, on the roof or this building, technically, potentially, those projects could have been covered by this money. But it's just too early.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well,
Right. Commissioner Long.
You did mention our tower. We were looking at
There's a,
communications
yes,
tower.
that's a strong possibility. Based on the discussions I've had, it looks like they're going to be very flexible, anything related to broadband and increasing Wi-Fi internet in rural areas.
That's a wonderful opportunity.
More towers.
I did originally, I did ask Matt to keep researching and get us some numbers, because once we have the information. Like I said, the good thing is we have through December 31st, 2024. So there's not a crunch deadline. For example, the previous grant, the money had to be spent by December 31st to get reimbursed. So this, we have some time.
Well, if we think that process through on the towers, if we put the tower up, that generates revenue. If we put it up on county property, that generates the revenue for the county 911 system perpetually. And I think that would, I think it would benefit not only the county, the citizens in the county. We'd get broadband. We'd also be able to offset some of the costs to the citizens of the county for our 911 services.
I already have received several calls from other units of government asking if they could partnership with us for their projects. And I said, well, it's way too premature yet, but that is an option. So for example, I just mixed up, it's the road commissioner called me. If there's a piece of road that we wanted to partner with the road commission, those funds be used, the most likely answer is yes. Those are decisions made by the county. But unlike the other grants where we had to, this money was for all units of government in Leelanau County, this money is for Leelanau County government, for this body. Townships have their own funding cycles. The tribe received their own funding, school districts got their own funding, health departments are getting their own funding.
Road commission is not.
I don't know that for a fact. I don't honestly know. I didn't see them listed, but I don't know.
Well, that's the idea of this resolution, is that we're looking to try to help people out. And if we can do this, and we do, whether we do it through the $4 million or through, if we are able to do something with the taxes or fees or permits, the idea is to have this in place so that we will do that. But like Commissioner Wessel had said, that we don't really have to have this in place to do it. It's just another incentive, another thing that we would say, this is what we've proposed to do. It doesn't guarantee anything other than that we will keep that in the forefront. Commissioner Elmer.
I think it's premature to make any decisions of any kind. We have a lot to learn about what is coming, what needs are, how they are best met. So I'd like to suggest that we hold the intention that we want to help the businesses and citizens of our county, and we await the best way to do that.
But to clarify, your resolution you wrote before we knew anything of these funds, am I correct?
Right.
So it really stands on its own.
Right. Well,
And it can be connected, correct?
yes, definitely.
Okay.
The idea is that I know next month they're going to come forward with setting the millage for this year.
County's military.
And if we wanted, be willing to look at that, and this would give us more incentive to do that. Basically, we've brought it up at that time previously, but we haven't thought of it ahead of time. So I'm trying to prepare the way for it so that we can help these businesses, no matter what that does. And citizens and the poor and the elderly, all could be helped by this. Commissioner West.
Yes, I appreciate it and understand the rationale behind the resolution. I once again think we don't need a resolution to do it. I agree that it's premature, but more importantly, when the commission agrees on a resolution, I want it to have meaning. And we don't know enough yet to be able to say that we're going to be able to reduce fees or reduce taxes. We don't know the impact on service. We don't know the impact on staff. So I will not support the resolution, but I support the intent of the resolution and hope we'll continue to have conversation about how we might be efficient and pay off our debts and serve our citizens.
Any other comments? Commissioner Long.
Only one, taxes are based on value. So if you were to roll taxes back by whatever the percent of the person paid, that's a fair way to give a benefit back. No one benefits any more than any other because it's what they have to pay. So, it is definitely a fair way to say, if we could in any way, we can't afford to do a percent, obviously, but whatever amount, it's based on a formula we didn't come up with, but it would be same across the board. It would be the same benefit to everyone based on what their tax bill is. I just want to clear that up.
Any other comments? Commissioner Sotis Little.
Yes, thank you. I think we really need to think carefully about how we approach this. Having the 4.2 million could be a major asset to helping people. And I think we need to look carefully at who really does need help. Where can we really leverage our dollars to really help people who are in a situation where they need it, whether they be businesses or whether they be individuals. I mean, many individuals lost their jobs at the beginning of the COVID pandemic because businesses were nervous. As it turned out, for many retail businesses, this was a banner year. It was not for restaurants. Restaurants were hurt badly, and so were restaurant employees. B&Bs were hurt. Many people found that they had to stay home with their kids. So one parent or the other parent had to quit their job because there was not sufficient childcare opportunities that were open. So I think we need to really take a hard look at the whole situation and come up with a plan that makes sense on how to help people. I think helping is important, and I'm all for that. I think as Commissioner Wessel said, the intent of the resolution certainly is to help people, and I am all for that. I don't think we need a resolution to do this. The discussion at tax time and at budget time on cutting different taxes always takes place. I don't think we need that in a resolution. It has taken place in the past and will continue to. So I think the opportunity is to look at how we can use our 4.2 million to really benefit Leelanau County in many ways and do it with a solid plan instead of piecemeal or trying to do it by saying we're cutting programs when we really don't know what the impact is of that. So I can't support the resolution, but I really do appreciate the intent and the effort you put behind it. Chairman Bonnet.
Okay, well, Commissioner Walker.
I support the resolution. I'm sorry I didn't bring it again. I was going to read it again in front of me. I know last week I supported the resolution. The resolution is direction. The resolution is a goal. So I think it doesn't say we are going to do it, if I remember correctly. It just sets up the idea that that is an intent where possible. So for what that's worth, I support the idea. It's beneficial as any goal we set forward. And for all those same arguments, had to set goals for direction, etc. This I see as one. It's direction.
Well, having no motion, we'll move on. So it's unfortunate that this board The federal government has come through with 3 things to help people out. We can't even come up with one idea to help people out, but we're gonna move on. We're on number 9, corporate counsel contract.
Yes, last week, I gave an update that our contract with Gold Stoker Koski expires in May. The board directed me to contact them and see if we get a proposal. You were emailed that last week. What they are recommending is a 3-year contract. What I negotiate with them is a 3-year contract, 2% a year increase for the next 3 years. The terms are exactly the same as the past contracts.
Okay, thank you for that. And that's just, were there any questions? No. So then we'll move on then to replacement of the iPads.
Yeah, once again, we talked about last week. We did confirm it's the iPad Air, and with the cases, it's the difference is there's a stylus with it, and when you charge your iPad, your keyboard also charges at the same time. Obviously, there's a lot of new features in the apps and everything else, but the biggest thing is right now you have to charge your keypad separately, and the ones you have are between 4 and 7 years old, depending on when you became commissioner and when they were replaced. But Mr. Clement says it is time to replace them.
Commissioner Rush.
What's gonna happen to the old ones? They'll use them somewhere else?
What we did, we either recycle them, depending on how old they are, or last time we gave you the option to buy them at a fair market value. Which we probably do.
I'm just wondering if we can recycle them
Yeah,
somewhere.
the ones, like example, I think yours is one of the newer ones. I think so. So for example, that one we would recycle. We would follow our disposal policy where we give them a ride. If we can recycle them, we do. If not, we try to sell them. If we can't, then we recycle them through a co-op that we belong to.
Can we sell them like on eBay or?
We did, but some of them don't have value.
Okay.
But
I just wondered.
what we did last time, we gave commissioners the option of buying their own personal ones first at fair market value. And then we went to the staff.
You know, have you ever offered them to school children who perhaps don't have computers?
The problem with that, we have some that actually Ron says we can't use them because they're so outdated. The apps are outdated. So that's the problem. We could put them up. We don't have that many of them.
Offer them to schools?
We could, I mean, that's up to you.
What about Lyft?
We could do, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
Let's see if they might be
That's an excellent idea. Yeah.
interested.
If you don't know what Lyft and help you out, it's lifting, it's teenagers, it's a support group for youth based in Science Bay, and they provide many services, including meals, tutoring,
Fun.
Socializing, counseling
Education.
services
Yeah.
at no cost.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's an anachronism for lifting something teens.
Yeah, I cannot think was.
Leelanau Investing for Teens.
There you go.
Hey,
That's a great idea.
people know investing for teens.
Let me check into
We have a
that.
policy on disposing of.
Yeah, anything that's worth less than $500 is
More than
up to
500, that's
me.
my next
Less,
question.
and these are not worth 500, so we can do that.
And
But
they're really
I will check with that.
Okay.
The other area might be our veterans.
Need a motion.
Oh, sorry.
I believe the clerk gave you a sample motion.
Yes.
I can,
Commissioner Allen.
I move to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners the purchase of 8 Apple iPad Air with funds to come from 101, 100, 101, 970, 010. 010.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So that brings us into anti-bias training update.
Just a couple updates from last week. One is Commissioner Wessel asked when our legal counsel drafted the Title VI policy here. Commissioner Wessel asked about Title VII, and all our personnel policies were updated in the last couple of years, and we are in full compliance with Title VII. And he's recommended there is no need to have a Title VII policy because all of our employment policy cover Title VII. So we're in full compliance with Title VII. He did point out, he's encouraging that we definitely approve Title VI because many of the federal grant programs now require proof that the unit government applying for grants has a Title VI policy in place. So actually, a lot of counties recently have adopted this same policy, which Coastal Road, to get in compliance with federal grants requests. I know Mrs. Gallo said several grants that she gets, that she reviews, now require proof of Title VI policy. So that's one update. The other one is, in terms of last week, we had a debate or a dialogue about videos versus online versus NMC. And the one thing that Ron brought up to me afterwards, I did not think about, and I put it in my Friday update. We actually have a contract with KnowBe4. It's a service where we provide professional development for our employees online. Most of it has focused on spam and internet fraud because of the issues we've had. They do have a module on diversity, which I sent you a brief overview in the link. And to add that to our contract would be $475.
One time?
It's good for a year.
It's a yearly contract.
It's a yearly contract.
And they,
So that's just an update.
Commissioner Rush.
This is directed to Commissioner Robbins. Did you not make the statement that someone in Grand Traverse County had some sort of training manuals or training CDs that would they would offer?
The sheriff department does for law enforcement.
Oh.
Yeah, he's willing to share with us.
Okay.
But then that'd be up to work with it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Commissioner Alvarez.
I think it's very, very, I like the idea of having an online program for departments to offer, for instance, when there's a problem, there's an issue, there's a new employee. But I think it's very, very important. I think our society is on the brink of learning about, in the process maybe is a better word, of learning about a deeper level of implicit bias that an interactive program would be vital for. So I would like to see us engage with NMC to do interactive trainings and then perhaps bolster that with online education. But I think that's a very, very important ingredient.
have you had an opportunity to view, I did not have an opportunity to view the know before.
I did not. I meant to, but I didn't get to.
With an annual, have you, Chet, also? Yeah?
Just a brief overview, not the full thing.
Yeah. Okay. If it's a yearly, subscription,
Yeah.
then do they update it every year or?
I can tell you this is our, I think, third year with KnowBe4, and they do update them on a regular basis. Yes. This module, when they put together the proposal for us 3 years ago, they didn't put the diversity, but we didn't ask for it either. So they have different modules on different topics. We would have to add that because this is not part of our regular contract.
Okay, well, I'd like to view that, at least, and learn a little bit more about it. So I just recommend we move this on to March.
I'd like to maybe do the Title VI.
Yeah, if you could
That
approve
approves,
them.
Sure.
I did read through that and I thought,
Okay.
if we could, and then, we can talk about whether we do the DVDs or, I think we can't do something just for the sheriff's department, back that really is up to the sheriff. I could make it available to them, but
Specific to sheriff, to
No,
deputies.
it was for just law.
Commissioner Rush.
I, for some reason, can't seem to pull that language up, but going from memory, it seemed to me that the appointment of Chet in the position of, what was the position called? Coordinator or?
Yeah. This is in alignment with all our other policies, or I am the discrimination officer for the county, whether
Right.
it's, or I'm the policy enforcement officer.
But in the language in there, it seemed to me that it had given you a certain level of authority to make policy and different things. And that raised a level of concern for me because I personally think that those issues should come before the board before policies are implemented. And so my suggestion is that we make our board chairman the person as opposed to Chad, and have the board chairman delegate the responsibilities to the administrator for follow-up procedures.
The board chair is in it, but it's the third, but it's after.
Yeah, it's signed by the board chair and administrator.
What I tried to do was get Joe Hubble as a prosecutor, that would come to his office maybe first, then to the administrator, then to the board chair. Keith said he would think about it, but he never really got back to me about it.
I don't speak on his behalf, but he would prefer we follow the same process as all of our policy and procedures, with designate me as the officer to investigate issue reports.
But I like
And
that
what's-
policy would come back to the board.
What's the language
Yeah,
under?
I'm not sure where I read this, I don't remember seeing anywhere where the administrator would have the policy, the authority to make or change policy. I think my job is to make sure we're in compliance and do the investigation, as we did that one case we had where I was designated where I could do the investigation and so forth. I don't think, I certainly did not read that I have the, or not me, the person in my job, would have the authority to make policies.
Can I look at that? Maybe I can find where I read that. That was my only concern, that you would unilaterally be able to make policy. And if that's the case, I won't support it.
Don't think I didn't know.
Right.
Well, I mean, it isn't a rush, we can look through that again, we don't have to do it tonight.
Okay.
In March?
We can just put it, in April, the next thing for April.
Yeah, April.
Or is it May?
Yeah, May, not that.
So should we also get a proposal from NMC?
We do have one.
Oh, good.
You received that,
Yeah, last week.
yeah. And Betsy Williams on the
Okay.
committee?
I'll look for it. Pardon?
$3,800.
Okay.
So, and we can look at that again.
Okay, so both things in April.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll just, Commissioner Wesson.
Yes, I want to thank Chet for following up on the Title VII issue. And then before we select a training experience for staff, I think it might be a good idea to check with a couple of tribal representatives and a couple of people of color, and just make sure that what we're doing fits with what our community thinks we need to do. And I'm not suggesting they select what we do, but I'm suggesting we get some input. Ellen Fred, in her public comment today, said her group would be available to help us. She may have a couple of people in that group that could look at a couple of those training programs and offer a recommendation on strengths and needs and that sort of thing. So not suggesting that we delegate somebody else to pick our program, but that we have some help picking our own program.
Any other comments? So then we'll move on then to update of revised open meetings act.
So you want us on the April agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, open meetings, as you know, during the pandemic in 2020, the state and the House and Senate government revised Open Meetings Act would allow for remote meetings. And the majority of commissioners will not have to be in the room. Actually, none of you have to be in the room. And we did that for a while with only Mr. Buddick here, and all of you were remotely. That expired in December. There was some modifications made for 2021. And there's two key dates. One is March 31st. The other one is December 31st. As of March 31st, which is obviously just a few weeks away, there's a new modification will take place that commissioners can only participate remotely under one of three conditions. They have to be in a military service, they have to have a medical condition, or they can be a caregiver for someone with a medical conditions. Without that declaration, commissioners can participate remotely, but they cannot vote. That's the key point. So for example, these two commissioners today, just not to single them out, they would have to declare why they are participating remotely. It has to fit one of those criteria. If it does not, they can participate, they cannot vote. So that's the key thing. Also, we are now open up to 25 people in the room. If number 26 comes in, we can't say, sorry, you have to go home and watch it on YouTube. We have to make provisions to have them view the meeting somewhere else. So the lower level, we fortunately have the technology, and we bought the Polycam to last month. So we can say, I'm sorry, we're full. However, you can go downstairs and watch the meeting. They're recommending, I think we will anyway, still to broadcast, to do a hybrid where people can still watch live. But technically, we do not have to have remote meetings anymore. But if we don't do remote meetings, we have to allow for people to come to the meeting. Once we get to number 26, we have to have a plan for them, which we do have a plan. So we will be in compliance. Also, this holds for all units of government in Leelanau County. The exception is the county board actually has the authority to declare a state of emergency for health reasons. If you did that, then all units of government in Leelanau County can participate remotely as we have been doing. As you remember, right before Christmas, I believe the city of Traverse City declared state of emergency, and a couple of counties did just to be in compliance, because originally it was scheduled to expire December 31st. The state did advance that to March 31st. So you'd have to have, without a state of emergency by the county or the health department, commissioners have to be present unless they are in military service, a medical condition, or a caregiver with someone with a medical issue. And we have to make provisions for people beyond 25 to be present. This is through December 31st. So after December 31st, technically we go back to the old meetings act. So the question was, in your board policies, do you allow commissioners twice to participate remotely? State law supersedes that. So technically, as of January 1st, 2022, the policy still be in effect. Between now and December 31st of this year, that is not an option, just to do it twice a year without stating one of those three reasons.
Everybody understand that?
It's a little complicated, but.
Right. Thank you for that.
And that's true for all units of government, not just county boards.
So then that would then bring us to a review of financials. Are there any questions or anything?
There was just one, page 7, I almost said Jen, I didn't finish up in the room. The vendor was Herman, I believe, and it was a step maybe for a truck.
For Jerry's truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're putting, I guess, as I read that, I know it wasn't a lot, I don't have it from me, but my concern is putting any more money into that old truck. I was really not happy we put the amount of money into it that we did to start with, and I see we were putting even more money into it. I guess I want to see us stop putting money into that old of a vehicle.
Repair steps.
Jerry likes
It says repair
Yeah.
steps. and flat bar.
likes his truck.
Maybe we should hire Chuck.
Am I mistaken? Is it a different truck or is that the truck?
No, it says Jerry's. It says Jerry's.
It does say Jerry's.
In the amount?
I thought it was like
No, this is a new one.
$1,200 or something.
No, this is 90, so after they must have done the rocker panels and such, then he needed a step to get in. So
They added a step.
they redo all that bottom work, so now the step is there to get in the truck.
Is that the end of it on that truck?
We hope so. Obviously, if it's any major repairs, we would not do it. But hopefully we have, Jerry's hoping that truck will last several more years. And I see where he's coming from. The one he priced out was 40-some thousand, I think. So.
Well, I understand.
But at some point, you're
We
right.
do very well with our vehicle policy on vehicles. We've been buying vehicles that resell. We've been getting great return on those investments. I know for a fact that when those older vehicles get old, they do start nickel and diming you. So you do have a decision to make. You know, are you going to spend money on the new vehicle or are you going to continue to nickel and dime? And in a vehicle that old is going to start nickel and diming us. It goes against our vehicle policy. I know I've got old vehicles, I nickel and dime just because they are my own personal and that's my choice. But this is a county owned vehicle and it goes against our policy on vehicles. And we've done, as I said, we've been doing very well on the resale of our vehicles since Laurel's taken over the whole Blue Book online auctioning thing. We've done very well. So that was the only thing I had. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on then. Do we have any committee reports? No special reports? This will bring us then to public comment, and please call 231-256-8109. Please come forward. If you want to do public comment, call 231-256-8109.
I have Gary Zamitis, Leelanau Township. I got several things to ask and comment on. First of all, just thinking of it is, Mr. Janik, could you provide me with something that shows about what we can and cannot do on this 4.2 million?
As soon as I get it, I'll be glad to share it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. These plexiglass guards, when you're ready to sell them, I know somebody that might be interested in these. Beside myself, it might be Mr. Price or somebody like that. Thirdly, there's something I bought several months ago. It's called a New Wave OxyPure. It's an air purifier. If Mr. Janik would look it up online, I think you'll find it online, it actually kills the virus. They didn't know that until later. It's an air filter that sits on the floor. It's very quiet. It's got 5 filters in it. One of them kills virus, okay? And filters out the system. If you're looking to protect individuals, yourself and others, it would be a great idea. Even your employees in the various departments that you're concerned about, this unit is wonderful. It's made a difference in our life. Not so much, I didn't see any viruses there being killed, but it's hard to see. Just the breathing in the room, and people will walk in my house and say, wow, okay, New Wave OxyPure. I think they're $600 each. They give you enough filters for 5 years. There's only one replaceable filter in the thing. The other 4 are just cleanable. All right, and it's warranted for only 20 years. Okay, that's one thing. This is another subject, and I want to compliment Chairman Bunnick. Thank you for thinking of us, county taxpayers. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you can't respond, but you can wave your hand. The vast majority of taxes the county gets is from the property owners. Am I correct? Yeah. All right. These are the people paying taxes. And I know this might be a little hard to understand for somebody who hasn't owned a business or worked in the private sector. The money the government gives us is our money. They don't have any money. They get it from us. And they give us some back occasionally. Okay? All right. I took 4 point whatever millions and divided it by 21,000 people approximately in the county. That's $200 per individual. All right. Now, the government has decided to give us, whether it was last administration or this administration, X amount of dollars. But they didn't give it to certain people whose income was very high that didn't need it. You know, somebody else might think $100 is nothing. Me, that's a lot of money. Okay, as I get older and I'm in my upper 70s, my savings, what I have from my own making through the years being in business, is diminishing down to where I'm going to be renting space here in the county in a couple of years. Okay, so when you think of giving back to the public, which you might have an opportunity to do, there's several ways. I'm just mentioning, explore all of them. Okay, and my taxes are going up. Okay, why are they going up? Well, people are voting for things. Okay, and they say, my tax, I got a permission from the other person to the left of me to use some of their time. My taxes are going up because people vote for things. Okay, and then they say, why are my taxes going up? Last thing, and I'll cut it short. My first public comment, I would like one of the commissioners to step up and bring that subject up about saying a prayer between the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence at the next meeting and discuss it. And please.
Your 5 minutes are up.
Thank you.
All right, so, is there any commissioner comments?
The chair was talking earlier, I think you mentioned last week, April 1st, the doors are opening up there.
Yes, I forgot to mention it, yes, yes. Now, we have always been open, I want to clarify
Right,
that.
but I meant,
Yeah.
they won't have to, the public won't have to call.
Correct, yes. Yes, we will go back to the method we used from May till November 18th. So, one-way traffic, one person per office, but yes.
No.
I had a comment.
Go ahead, ma'am. This is Tricia Benton, and I'm a resident of Cleveland Township. First of all, I want to commend you on your ongoing support of just your steadfastness with pursuing economic impact aid, and I look forward to seeing what the county is able to do to support our community and lift up people who've been impacted by COVID-19. So thank you for pursuing those, continuing to pursue that, those investment funding. In addition to that, I just have a question. As a working mom, the ability to participate in board commission meetings and give public comment via phone, I hope that there will be some kind of an option for that discipline in the future as we move back into being able to hold meetings face to face. And then the last thing I'd like to say, as a member of the Lime Lake Association, a supporter of Little Traverse Lake, and an employee of the Glen Lake Association, I'm very pleased to hear that there's support to expand the age-accepted mapping project that is done on Little Traverse Lake. As a former
employee of the state of Michigan Geological Survey Division statewide groundwater database geographic information system that was developed back in the 90s. This kind of information is critical, not just for our health department, for our residents, water stewards, and I'm really pleased to hear that there's support for expanding the age-accepted national project. Again, I'm excited to hear of the new hiring of a couple of Marine Patrol people that I mentioned before in the commission meeting. We have so many miles of shoreline and water, and not enough of the budget to support the safe monitoring of that important part of our economy and big part of the reason why I live here with my family. So thank you again for all you do, and I'll let you get on with your evening.
Thank you. Back to commissioner comments, Commissioner Faulkner. You have a comment you want to make?
I just wanted to maybe clarify. I'm going to be looking for a little bit of information. We've had tomorrow at Parks and Recreation, we're going to discuss the issue in our parks about at our Parks and Recreation meeting tomorrow, the issue of the hunting in the parks. And we've been down this road before, and we had an opinion from our attorneys back several years ago. And we had an opinion on hand which told us, as I understand it, one thing. And now we've gotten an opinion that says something perhaps altogether different. And so I'm a little concerned about that. But in reading the thread, it seems to me like there are perhaps our attorneys strayed a little bit outside of what is legal and not, and straight into opinion on the safety of the park. And I was greatly alarmed by that, because if our attorney is going to stray into opinion on safety, I don't think that's what we hire our attorneys to do. We have an insurance company that guides us and recommends to us what we do with our parks. And what we do with our parks is all legal. It's all perfectly legal. If we were going to look at our parks and make our parks as safe as we could, we would probably drain those ponds at Veronica Valley, because they're not safe. And we know they're not safe, which is why we've asked repeatedly for grant dollars to put a safer fishing deck, since we hold Kids Fish Day there. So I'm going to be looking into this issue more before next month, but I just wanted to share with you my concern about this thread, and we'll be discussing this tomorrow at Parks and Rec. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Allen.
I would just like to support what Trish Denton said. I think it's been invaluable that our public has been able to make public comment over the phone, and I hope that will continue after March 31st, especially for evening meetings and day meetings for people who work. It's allowed greater participation from our public, which is really what we'd like.
Commissioner Sotos.
Yes, thank you. And I agree with Commissioner Algar that I think this has been perhaps the positive thing that has happened in this last year, is that people are able to tune in and participate. I wanted to just take a moment first to thank Gary Zamitis and his men's group for keeping my husband's return to good health in their prayers. I do appreciate that. And also, I'm glad he did distribute the letter, but I realize people in the audience and people who are watching this really don't know what our communication exchange was. So I'm going to take just a moment and share that by reading it. Mr. Zamitis' letter to me is, Dear Commissioner Sotis Little, I am contacting you regarding your final comments at the end of the last commissioners meeting. If you truly mean what you said at that time, I am asking you to initiate adding a prayer after the Pledge of Allegiance. This is being done at our nation's capital, our state capital, at our Traverse City Commissioners meeting, and many other governmental meetings across our great country. This is especially needed in this difficult time we are all facing. It is eventually going to happen here. Why not take the lead? Now, he was saying adding it after the Pledge of Allegiance. Suggestion for a short prayer. Oh God, please help and protect all who live in Leelanau County, especially those facing health, both physical and mental and financial difficulties. Also, we pray for the commissioners. We give them the wisdom they need when they have to make difficult decisions. Thank you for this wonderful place we live in. Amen. Looking forward to your taking the lead on this issue. Thank you, Gary Zamitis. My response, excuse me, was, Dear Gary, thank you for your February 24th email, and please accept my apologies for the delay in responding. A week ago Saturday, I took my husband Robert to Munson ER, where he underwent major surgery on Sunday, the third in less than 1 month's time. Following a stint in ICU, he was moved to regular ward, and happily I was able to bring him home again late last week. I am now catching up on correspondence. I appreciate your request to take the lead in replacing the moment of silence with a prayer, like the one you suggested. The moment of silence statute was passed to allow respectful, thoughtful contemplation and tribute to those men and women who have served or are still serving in defense of our country, many of whom gave their lives. This is why it follows the patriotic Pledge of Allegiance. My grandfathers fought in World War I, my father in World War II, and 2 of my brothers served in the military. So for me, the moment of silence has great meaning. Today, the moment of silence also is used to pay respect for those who passed away during a tragic event like the one we are in now that has claimed so many lives. I appreciate the deep commitment you and Karen have to your faith and can understand why you want to share your support for others by changing the moment of silence to a thoughtful prayer. Right now, I believe the world desperately needs kindness and respect. Kindness to one another and respect to allow each individual the freedom to pray in their own way. The moment of silence allows this, as many people do use it to offer a prayer for those they love who are now gone, or for those who may be in harm's way for a multitude of reasons. During these difficult times we are facing, I cannot in good conscience eliminate the moment of silence, depriving anyone of the right to utilize this special time in their own way. Again, thank you for your thoughtful suggestion. All my best. I did believe Mr. Zamitis meant to offer the prayer in lieu of the moment of silence, and he is indicating that that is not his intent. That being said, I think my response really addresses my position on this, and I would not be comfortable taking the lead for the reasons that I've stated in my email. So I just wanted to put that in the record. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments?
I have a question for Commissioner Lautner in regards to which parks were you referring to? Or was it all of them?
It starts with Veronica Valley.
Okay, and
it would impact Miles Kimmerly Park also.
And you said you have an attorney's opinion on an issue?
Yes.
The rest of the commissioners don't have that opinion. Would you?
Yeah, well, you would be entitled to it. I can forward it. Sure.
Share it with us so that we know exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Is Veronica Valley looking at eliminating the hunting opportunity in the park?
No, Parks and Rec has not discussed it. It's not come to the parks to eliminate. but we had one board member ask whether it would be possible to keep one portion of Veronica Valley non-hunting. And that's where the, and now I'm not gonna be able to pull it back up again. That's where the discussion began, was whether or not there should be hunting in the parks.
Was there some
And how-
stipulation in regards to that? part?
There's going to be some discussion on this tomorrow, because there is an understanding that when we purchased the Veronica Valley Park, we got it through the Michigan Department Trust Fund, Michigan DNR Trust Fund dollars. And it was to be kept a certain way and to allow a certain amount. And we had allowed hunting in there. And we were lobbied to not allow hunting in our parks. And so that was a question on the table of whether we should allow hunting in our parks or not. While we were discussing that, we got the opinion back that said we did not have the authority to stop hunting in the parks. That by state law, it's allowed in parks. So that's what we've been going on for a number of years. And so that's really not the concern. We've had, that's not my concern. We've had no problems with it at all in the parks. Actually, there's very little, to my knowledge, there's very little hunting done in our parks, because the state law dictates your ability to hunt, where you can hunt, what you can hunt with, etc. So state law already limits that. There's very little that can actually be done. So that's what it's about.
Laurel, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just forwarded the minutes from an October 5th, 2010 special session of this board, along with the approved management plan for Veronica Valley at that time, which kind of makes this discussion somewhat moot, because the board approved hunting within that park. And that is information that council did not have at the time that he rendered that opinion.
Yeah, just to piggyback, and I'm not in Parks and Recs, I'm involved. There was an incident with our animal control officer, an incident, and he wrote a ticket. The courts viewed that it was not legally done because of some provisions. There appeared to be some conflict between state law and our policy, and it was in the grant, and we're trying to get through that. So it was an opinion based on the law, state law, but the attorney did not have the 2010 provision. He did not know that at that point, he was asked to write the opinion. He did not have access, nor did the board, the Parks and Recs committee members, tell him that story, or that there was a board motion passed. He was basing it on the fact the board never took action on that. So that's where the legal conflict came in. So I think this may be a moot point based on the minutes that Laurel found from 2010.
It is and it isn't, because that really, my concern, because the ticket wasn't really anything to do with hunting, it was a dog not on a leash.
But that's what led to that.
That's what led to it, was a dog not on a leash. So my concern was the opinion in the personal opinion placed in the opinion written for us. That was my concern. As I'm going to quote here, as previously noted, active hunting would appear to be incompatible with other specified uses of the park. That and there's one more, I'm going to find it quickly. Unless the grant application specifies, he speaks to, in one paragraph, safety. And that was what my concern was.
So it's not as much concerned about the hunting in the park as him giving an opinion
It's mentioned 3 times, yeah, and that was my concern, because it's a legal activity presently. So as I read this, and as you can read it, there's an opinion part in there, and there's nothing, he would find nothing to back it up, and that was my concern.
What bolstered that opinion as well is that the actual application to the DNR had a box that said allow hunting, and it was not checked. And then the agreement drafted by the DNR and signed by the county and the DNR never mentioned hunting.
So that's where the legal challenge came.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about, though. That goes to the use of the park. Yes, you're absolutely right, because I did read that. It said we did not check the hunting, but now go to here it is. It would appear that permitting hunting and unleashed dogs in the park would potentially conflict with the safe use of the park by the public.
Well, it's considered a passive park. That's why he probably stated that.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, that's,
Well, the Parks and Rec is reviewing it tomorrow.
Yes.
We can have an update at the April meeting.
Okay, is there anything else?
yes, but I'll pass for now.
All right, thank you. All right, so then that brings us to approval of financials. First we have amendment and transfer.
I would move we approve amendment number 21-004.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Locke.
I would move to approve claims and accounts $177,848.07.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Locke.
I would move to approve post audit $1,560,933.19.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign.